Hey, Sooner football fans. This is your Sooner Football Fans podcast. You got Terry and Rob here. Boomer Rob, Boomer Terry. And we are coming at you from the beautiful Podcast Palace.
Where we are not affiliated with the University of Oklahoma.
You didn't let me finish.
Oh, sorry.
In Norman, Oklahoma. Now go. But we have eligibility left. Come on, Rob. But make sure and hit your subscribe button, like button, follow us on Twitter, like our Facebook page, go check out our blog on our website. And what else, Rob? QB1.
Yeah.
If you haven't watched,
Season 3, Episode 9.
Yep, we are on QB1. We can prove it because our names are in the credits.
It's about 3 seconds worth of.
But we're in the credits. That's all that matters. Also coming out Thursday night at 8 p.m. on Tailgate Radio. Rob, myself, and the lovely Miss Teresa are on Tailgater Radio. And there's going to be a videography with it as well as a podcast, but we're talking about Oklahoma game day tradition and tailgating.
Yeah, and the other half of it is they went to Houston the next day and got some guys down there to do the same things.
Right. So I'm pretty sure our tailgating and our everything about Oklahoma is a lot better than it is at Houston.
We talked a little crap on that podcast too.
So, speaking of tailgates, tailgateconnect.com, our buddy Dan Donnelly. If you're going to be traveling out of state, going somewhere, not going to be able to make an Oklahoma game, but you want to make another game, you can get with Dan and he will hook you up with a tailgate. So make sure and check that out. He's also hosting what we're calling the biggest Oklahoma tailgate in California at the UCLA game, the Sooner tailgate. It's sold out.
Sold out.
So you can't go. So, but we will
tell
be
them
there.
about it so they can.
But we will be there. And also check out our videos on Thursday night from Louis on Campus Corner.
Live at Louis.
And go in and say hi anytime you're in Louis to them and see what response you get. We don't know what type of response.
It might not be good.
But we have a very special guest once again. I think this is his third or fourth time on the podcast. Proof that either myself or, like we keep saying, Rob are living right. We've got from Sports Talk 1400, Diehard Sooner Report on Patreon, which is his own deal, and also the Football Brainiacs and Lord knows what else.
Right.
We got James Hale. Boomer James.
Hey, Boomer. How you guys doing?
Fantastic. Thanks, man, for coming on with us again.
It's my pleasure. You guys always support what I do, and you guys are having a fun time with this, and this is a blast. So thanks for having me back.
Well, you're our favorite sports guy, so.
Well, thank you, man.
Absolutely.
I appreciate that because you have a lot to choose from, so I appreciate that.
And, not to say you're old, but we've been listening to you since we're in our early 20s.
Sometimes I try not to be old, and I tell people, like, when my birthday rolls around, how old are you, 34?
Yeah.
I say, I try to, I still try to dress hip. I try to do those things, but sometimes, Father Time just says, no, dude, you are this old, and this is what happens to you, like when you try to run or lift weight anymore or anything like that. So, yeah. So, but anyway.
I have a lady at work who comes to our tailgate, and she's not going to be able to make it this weekend, but she brought her husband raises watermelons. They grow watermelons.
They live in Chickasha?
Down by Ardmore area, down in that area. And so she sent me a picture of one. She goes, will this work for your tailgate? And I said, yeah. Okay. I'll show it to you afterwards.
It's about 400 pounds?
Yes, it is about 3 foot long. About. I told her,
That's
I said,
a friend now.
Yeah, I said, you're going to have to pay my doctor's bill for me lugging that thing all the way in the house.
Yeah.
So I don't have an ice chest or anything big enough to put it in. But yeah, before we get to football and all the things with the Sooners, the first thing I want to ask you about was, we already know this answer, but you got to answer it for everybody else, though, was did you have the Horns Down donut? Did you get any taste of the Horns Down donut?
Yeah, it's good. It's a donut. They just have it, horns down. So if you go to Hertz Donuts, it's hard to get just a donut.
Right.
And I'm not really one of these fancy, I like chocolate donuts and donuts. That's about it. And you can tell I've eaten a few in my life. So I like them. But it's a donut. And yeah, the horns are down, and you can peel off, So that's what I did. I kind of took one of the fingers, and it was good.
It was good. So
yeah.
I guess
they had. I want to explain to everybody. They had the concessions.
Right.
Feed the media. The media gets fed on Lincoln's press conference. I'm never there in time to eat it, but on this one, they always have something left. So before I go back to the station and finish my show, I usually try to get something to eat, or usually I don't eat lunch until 2:30, 3 o'clock. So. They had a couple of things, and Hertz had a bunch of stuff. It's like nobody ate the donuts. I started to go, I'll take all 30 of them, load them up, let's go. But
that's what I'd have done.
Right.
Covered in frosted flakes and
Right.
Skittles.
I just said just anything that's plain or chocolate. I'll take it.
Yeah. Now Rob said that I know they showed a picture of it, but they are selling a Hertz Donuts hamburger at concessions this year.
I didn't see that there.
Somebody tweeted out a picture of it, but I guess it's a big. That doesn't even sound right.
Well, are they making it's a beef burger? Is that what they're doing? Or is it going to be a donut?
It's a burger with donut as the bread.
No, come on.
Yeah.
No.
And it's not light on the sugar. I mean,
yeah, well, that's not going to taste good.
It's a Hertz donut. So.
Yeah.
Even Jalen's not going to like that one.
That's when I was 21, 22 years old, 3 o'clock in the morning, stumbling in. Throw it in the microwave.
So would you rather have a Dinko Darling, or would you rather have that? You'd rather have the Dinko Darling.
Yeah, but that's just weird. I don't.
That is weird. See, that's what they get too out there. Just give me a donut.
Yeah, just a regular donut. But one of the things that Rob and I have always talked about, and we've been big, sports fans and sports radio fans and stuff, and when we started doing this podcast, this podcast is a lot of work. It's a tiny little podcast, okay, but it's a lot of work.
I always tell people my job's not as easy as you think.
That's
just try to do it sometimes.
I mean, you work for Sports Talk 1400. You have your own the Die Hard Sooner report on Patreon.
Right.
You do work with Football Brainiacs. Who else do you work for?
No, that's kind of it right now.
Okay.
It's you can get spread too thin. I do 3 hours of radio every day, and so I got to get prepared. I got to get guests booked. Then it's 3 hours of radio every day.
Yeah.
And things are breaking. You got to be on top of it, so you do that. The Die Hard Sooner report is tailored towards Sooner fans.
Right.
And I'm going to report on anything I know that's going on at OU that day. So if I go to practice, here's 3 or 4 things that I got. I'm putting up 4 to 5 podcasts every day. It's $5 a month.
Yeah.
I'm a little surprised more people aren't jumping on it. I don't know why they don't, because I don't think anybody's touching me on the information I'm throwing out there.
No, they're not.
And, and it's 4, 5, 6 podcasts a day. So you can either, go and read, what everybody's going to type up. And, we do that at the Football Brainiacs too. And so, what I'm doing for that person that's on the go, or that person that's cooking in the kitchen, or that person that is getting the kids, and you're just, coming from ball games and you want to find out what the Sooners are doing, you can, dial up my site, and, 2.5 minutes, I'm going to tell you what happened at practice.
Right.
And you got it. And then you're moving on. You don't have to read 5,000 words or anything like that. Now, the Football Brainiacs, I think that we do the best job because we're honest reporters. We're just going to go out and report. That's the way I do business anyway.
Right.
We're not going to steal from anybody. We can't get it. We can't prove it. We don't write it. But we put up some really good stuff, and we're actually going to see recruits. We actually go out and talk to them face to face. And, so we're doing a good job there. And my show's 11 to 2 every day. And, and a lot of it's tailored around OU or college football or, but most of all, it's tailored around the audience. I love it when people call, and they can take me any direction they want when it comes to OU and, or college football
Right.
or anything else. And, I have a good time with it. I've been doing it for a long time. I don't know what I would do if I wasn't doing it, so, it's fun. But, everything that I've been able to do so far, I've been able to do it within my media brand or market.
Right.
And that's what I always hope I can do. If I have to actually go work at a company or do something else, I don't know if I can continue, do something like this. So this is why, the podcast is new. I know it's not, a lot of people are doing podcasts. You guys are doing a podcast. Right. A lot of people are doing it. I think my concept's a little different than I'm seeing from a lot of people, in that every podcast is 2.5 to 4 minutes long. It's detailed around a certain topic at OU. Hey, I'm going to talk about safeties today, and here's what I'm hearing, here's what I think, or, here's what Bill Beatonbow said the other day, and I'm going to talk about a couple of things he said, and I'm going to put 4 or 5 of those up, and, I think you have your day covered when it comes to OU, and you don't have to sit down in front of a computer. You don't have to put your glasses on. You can just listen and close your eyes and there you go. I'd rather you close your eyes than look at me. So, I thought about putting my daughter on, who's a very beautiful young lady, or some pretty girl, and say, maybe. But then I thought, man, I'm just going to roll with it and we'll see what happens.
Well, one of the things I wanted you to do is for us Sooner fans who, are folks out there who, like we said, think your job is easy. It's like, man, all he does is go to football practices, press conference.
Right.
He gets free food. Walk us through game week to what started on Monday and what you're doing up until. Well,
my show starts at 11, so right. I'm up at 8 o'clock. I don't have to get up at 6 or 5. I could, but I don't. I'm a night owl, so I usually stay up and I'm watching everything sports wise. But I get up early, get ready for my show. I book my show. Always have a guest. Merv Johnson's on with me every Monday. Then we have the Lincoln Riley press conference. So during the season, so Mondays are a little bit easier than non-football.
So you have to leave the radio station.
I leave at 11:45. Steve Marshall takes over for me.
You drive up,
I drive up, and I get there right when it's starting. Usually, a friend of mine or two will save me a seat, and I sit down. And then as soon as that's over, I never heard Baker. For instance, Baker was always after Lincoln. I took off. Jalen's not even there on Monday. I don't know if he's going to be ever, whatever. But I'm never there for the players or anything else. And so then I go to practice that night, and then we get post practice. And then Tuesday, it's a regular show. And then we have, you go to practice, you have post-practice. So then, I'm pretty well cleared the rest of the week as far as practice goes and things like that. And then game day, I'm at Balfour on Campus Corner 3 hours before the game. We're actually there 4 hours. But Toby and Chris and Teddy, they're there the first hour. Then Tyler and I are there the second and the third hour. Then I'm at the football game, usually about 45 minutes before it starts. And then as soon as the game's over, we go to post-game. I stay for an hour of post-game, and they can still be going or whatever, but I got to go because I got to get to O'Connell's and do the final hour of post-game. And then the next day, I'm writing a long game report for the Football Brainiacs, and then it starts all over on Monday. So that's the season as it goes along.
But you also do everything Sooners. It's not just football.
That's correct.
So if something happens with the volleyball team.
That's right. I go to volleyball matches whenever I can. I go to soccer matches whenever I can.
Ooh.
You don't go, you don't get it. So, I'm a big wrestling fan. Yep. So I certainly cover wrestling. And, I never miss a basketball home game. So I'm going to women's and the men's games. And then you're covering recruiting. Now, at the Football Brainiacs, I don't have to do that as much as Kay or Charlie do. But I still have to contribute, and I do. And I don't think anybody beats us in recruiting. I know there's other people that think they do, but they really don't.
Yeah.
Not many people are actually seeing the kids and talking to the kids like we do, and I know we are. So it's an everyday. It's a full day. There's no question about it. But I'm not laying bricks. I'm not working construction, and that's who I do the show for. That's who I do all this work for. The guy that's really working hard out there, making sure our streets are better, making sure the sidewalks are working. Making sure that life is better. That person's who I'm working for. That's working in the back of the factory. That just wants 5 minutes and just. I want to relax, and that's who I'm really working for, because I've never said this is hard work. Now, it's tiring, it's long, travel is not easy, it's tough to go to games anymore, but it's, I'm blessed. I say it every single day to do what I do. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
I cover games for a living, and I get to cover the University of Oklahoma. That's the school I grew up with. I went to school there. I have 2 degrees there. My son has degrees there, multiple degrees there. We're Boomer Sooner all the way. Mom and Dad were Boomer Sooner, and that's just the way it is. And so you have to balance that, because I know a lot of people say, well, he's a homer, but I'm a journalist.
Right.
But I have a school, just like every other journalist has a school they went to, and they root for that school. But I happen to be able to cover a school, and it's a great program to cover.
You happen to be, one of the leading analysts and reporters for the school that you went to and that you root for. I mean, nothing wrong with that. that's like being, if you played football at OU.
Well, we live in a very condescending, society. Everybody
Right.
wants to talk about the bad things first, and I just don't.
Right.
I look at the glass half full, and when you continue to do that, like with OU's defense, and everybody wants to hang the coach and everything else, I'm trying to tell you, well, here's what and I'm trying to look at it in a positive way. They did win the game. Eventually, they don't win the game, and you've got to talk about, okay, what happened. But there's got to be somebody that doesn't look at everything as if it's that it's a disaster. Yeah, Steve Marshall joins me at noon, and he's a longtime broadcaster too in the market. I've worked with Steve for a long time, but he and I are totally opposites. Oklahoma can play let's say a basketball game and win 61-59, and I'll be talking about all the good things that happened in the game, and he'll come on and say, hey, I don't think they're any good. They're not going to beat this team or that team, and he'll immediately go into that. But that's how most people are. That's really more people would look at it that way than. Well, and that's why people are already asking, Lincoln, if you give up 35 points, are you going to be disappointed? And I'm sitting there going,
if you win,
what's the point of the question? Right. How did they give up the 35? What happened? But again, it's the negative Nelly out there that's, Lincoln, gosh, you guys are so bad defensively. If you get up 35, what are you going to do? Well, he's probably going to say, well, we scored 57 and we won 57-35. That's what he wants to say, but he can't say that.
Right.
So.
Well, let's start off with offense. Okay. One of the things that we've been talking about and a lot of the fans are talking about out there is, of course, Jalen Hurts. Which is a big plus, I think, for Oklahoma this year to have him in here.
Biggest story, I think, in college football right now.
And the discussion was, the question was asked to Riley, to Lincoln at the Big 12 media days, the drop-off went with the offense. Oklahoma's had the three.
He's the wrong guy to ask.
Yeah, he doesn't expect a drop-off. Everybody knows that. But the production, okay, one of the things out there is like Oklahoma has had historic production the last 3 years. It doesn't have to be historic again a fourth year in a row, but if we're as good as we were any of those 3 years or close to as good, we're still the best offense in the country.
They're still going to be a really good offensive team. I think it is going to be interesting to see how Lincoln tailors this offense to Jalen's scheme.
Style.
And so what you're going to see quarterback lead draws. You're going to see power run game out of Jalen. But Jalen, those folks at Alabama who love Jalen, and they still do, they're not going to recognize him because he is a true passing quarterback now. You'll see it in his footwork. You'll see it in the way he drops back, the way he bounces on his toes, the way he looks around. All this talk about he can't throw left, and you're going to have to move CD Lamb to the right. That's the funniest stuff I've heard. And stuff like that. Like you don't think he's going to work on his weaknesses. You don't work on your strengths. You work on your weaknesses. And believe me, he'll throw left. He'll hit long balls better than he ever has. Will he be as good as Baker and Kyler? I don't know. But he's going to do what he does. And usually that's 1,000 yards rushing, and that's 3,500 to 4,000, 3,500 yards passing. And with all the weapons that Oklahoma has, they're going to be really good offensively again. Will they be so elite that they'll be the talk of college football? Yeah, they're going to be close. Lincoln is a savant as an offensive. If you don't believe it so far, then this year will prove it to you. And Jalen Hurts came to Oklahoma instead of going to play for his good friend at Maryland or going to Miami, where he would have definitely been the starting quarterback walking in, and he would have been the toast of Miami. He came to Oklahoma, even with two other studs at quarterback, and because he wants to play in the NFL, he believes he's an NFL guy, but he's got to get better fundamentally, and that's all he's done. And you won't recognize him if you only saw him at Alabama. He'll look more like he looked at game against Georgia when he rallied, than early in his career. But he threw the ball okay early in his career. He just, all of a sudden he played Georgia, and they were trying to run the ball so much, and he missed a few passes, and all of a sudden they had to switch to Tua, but.
Well, you brought up the point about weapons. I've been saying it with Jalen. The weapons he has in his arsenal really is more than Kyler and Baker had maybe combined with, you got the triplets with Hazelwood, Weiss, Bridges. You got CD, Rambo, Trey Sermon, Kennedy Brooks, Stogner.
Yeah,
I mean,
but they don't have Hollywood.
Yeah.
And Hollywood was a big deal for the last 2 years. He really stretched the field, and that helped Bake, and that helped Kyler too. But CeeDee Lamb is a blue blood star. He has really worked hard. He's a cool guy. He's trying to be more of a leader. And Charleston Rambo's the first or second fastest guy on the team. He's got to be the speed guy on the offensive side of the ball. It'd be interesting to see if they get anything out of A.D. Miller. A.D.'s been more of a practice player than a player. I hope this year he really stands out. He's got the physical size you want. He needs, and then you've got Nick Basquin back. You will all pull for him. Michael Jones has had some big plays, but you haven't heard from him in a year or so.
Right.
Then you've got the new guys you're talking about. And
so
John Bridges has really been the best one of those, in my opinion, in camp. Stogner would be behind him. I mean, Hazelwood and Weiss have been pretty good, and they'll probably turn it on when they actually get into a real game. But Bridges reminds me of Mark Clayton, except that, Mark came to OU at 135 and 140 pounds. Trey John's built. He's a 178-pound guy. But he plays like Mark. He glides when he catches balls. He catches balls out in front of him one-handed like Mark did. And so I'm paying you a huge compliment. I think Mark's a great player.
Yeah.
And I think Trey John is that good and can do, so yeah, the young guys will have to play. They're going to play. I think that Drake Stoops is a good player. But this team has really good offensive personnel. Trey Sermon, Kennedy Brooks, the running backs. And I'm curious when they do come out with a depth chart where everybody sits in that running back room. In other words, has Ramondre passed TJ?
Right.
Has he put himself to where he's going to play? Because they do talk about Ramondre quite a bit, so that's going to be interesting to see.
Now that's the junior college
guy that looks like Samaje.
Yeah.
And now Marcus Major has had some big time runs. Marcus is a lot faster than I thought. In high school he kind of just glided around and scored like 30 touchdowns. And 1,200 yards. That means he got the ball every time in the red zone that they got down there. And but they've got weapons. It's just going to be interesting because Lincoln prides himself in being able to develop an offense that fits his personnel, and he's got to start with how does it fit Jalen and how does it fit the offensive line. And Bill really doesn't know what he's got in the offensive line, so he knows they're good players, though.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I mean,
big, strong kids for sure.
Yeah, we were talking to JY on today's podcast, and one of the things that we talked about, I mean, yeah, they weren't right behind, the best offensive line in the country, but these were still guys that were backups to the best offensive line in the country. Yeah, there's going to be tweaks and stuff, but these guys aren't, they're going to run through the same growing pains as any offensive line does at the beginning of the year. It's just how fast that they gel together.
Well, when you start with Creed Humphrey, that's a great player. That's a potential first-round draft choice, even though he's a center. And the unfortunate thing, he's probably going to come out. They can't tell him to come back if he's a first-round draft choice. And so, and if he plays like he can, he will be. They recruited Tyrese Robinson. They thought he was good from the jump. They recruited Marquise Hayes. They told him if he got his body in shape, they thought he would be really good. Well, he did. Adrian Ely, when he first got here, they didn't know if he was going to be a player because he just didn't have the footwork to, any move that a defensive end put on him, he was on his butt or he just couldn't get to it. But to his credit, he worked at it and he got better. And he did the ladders, and he, did everything he could to get his feet together. And now he's the solid right tackle that should be a really good player. Right. Left tackle's the question mark that today and tomorrow are going to prove who's probably going to start there. I think it's going to be Swinson now that he's back from that shoulder injury. But they moved Proctor out there, and that is a very good football player. And I'm shocked he didn't start more than 12 games at Virginia.
Really?
I mean, he played in 32, but he started only 12. And he started like most of those this past year at guard. He told me he's never played tackle, and now here he is, like Cody Ford. He's going to play tackle his last year, and he might. I mean, I think that if Eric's okay, that maybe Stacy Wilkins is the backup left tackle, a freshman, and that way Proctor can become the sixth man along the group.
Yeah.
And I could see them doing that. But Bill's going to find 7 guys, and he hopes to find 9. He's never played 9, but he always says that. But he will play 6 or 7, and he won't rotate his center. So Creed's not coming out. So you can rotate somebody at guard. He normally doesn't rotate tackles, but Proctor looks pretty good, and so does Finley Felix out there. And Finley got beat up. Some of these guys you feel for, they're just about ready to get the job, then boom, they get hurt.
Yeah.
And can they get another chance to get back out there?
Yeah, because that's an injury at the wrong time can put you behind a week, and
it puts you behind 3 or 4 weeks, 5 weeks. Robert Barnes, defensive secondary, he just keeps getting hurt. If he ever had 2 or 3 solid weeks, he would regain his position or at least be back into the rotation.
Mm-hmm.
And he might have done it this week. Can he get healthy? He's a really good player that just hasn't been able to get healthy to practice. And Alex Grinch really hasn't seen him that much. And that's his position coach. And so that's why you won't see him starting on Saturday.
Well, what about the H-back? Now, one of these guys, Jeremiah
I think
Hall,
they're going to play them both.
Yeah.
It's...
And Braden Willis, one of the things, Braden stood out to us when Oklahoma signed him. When I just went and looked at his stuff, and I said, we don't pay attention to, that's what you guys are for, to tell us the recruits. But I go and watch stuff, and just the more I read on Braden, he was a tight end, a wide receiver. His senior year, the quarterback got hurt. He had to go played quarterback. Just everything. I think this kid's got a chance to be special at wherever they put him. They moved him to H-back, obviously, because Stogner, because he came as a tight end. But
I think they moved him to H-back because they want him to get on the field more.
Right.
Stogner's come in, and he's playing behind Grant and Touchdown Lee. So, or TD Lee, is I think is what they're calling him.
All he does is catch touchdown.
That's it.
And they told Willis, we really don't have a backup to Hall right now. Why don't you move here, and we'll see what happens with it. And the difference in Hall, Jeremiah has played this position his whole life. Jeremiah has been a lead blocker. Jeremiah has taken on linebackers and defensive ends and handled himself well enough to get a scholarship at OU. He was the guy they offered to play this position, and they only offer one a year or one every 2 years. So that's how good Jeremiah is. And he's getting lost in the shuffle here a little bit because Braden is so highly thought of by everybody. And they do say great things about Braden, but Braden's never been a lead blocker. And he's never hit a linebacker in the mouth. Mm-hmm. And, he's never done those things. He's run around those linebackers. And so they can help each other, I think. I think Jeremiah, who caught a couple of big passes last year, is a good receiver too. They don't want to get to the point either. Every time they have Braden in, that's when they go deep to the fullback. And, and every time Jeremiah's in, they're running the 3-yard out. They're not going to – so they're both going to play it. I think they'll split the reps. They kind of have a theory at OU. If they're running the offense right, that's 80 or 90 plays they're getting off, and all players play better at 45 to 40 to 50 plays. And so there's enough reps for both those guys. And I think they'll just share the position and they'll take advantage. It's a really good spot, though, and it's not because Braden's playing there, even though I'm a big fan. It's because Jeremiah Hall is there. He's a 256-pound fullback that can run a 4.58 40, and that's not bad. He's a moose out there, man.
Not
and when he sneaks out, that safety better bring it because he's going to bring it to the safety.
Yeah. Well, and the other one, last one, moving on, we just kind of mentioned him, was Austin Stogner. We actually met Austin the other night. I'd met him before, but him and Calcaterra, they were at Louis on Campus Corner, and were nice enough. We're in there by us and took a group picture with us. And
big guy.
Yeah, he is. and what got me more than anything was, okay, he's just been on campus. He came. Did he come in January?
He came in the spring.
Yeah, he came in the spring, but he's as big as the
Well, he's bigger than Grant, and he's bigger than TD Lee. So.
And he's more. What they're saying is he's more physical at the line of scrimmage than all of them.
And that's going to give him a chance to get on the field.
Right.
I said early in the podcast and on my show, I would say I don't know how he's going to get on the field. Grant is the guy. They think he's going to have the same maturation as Andrews. That means that he'll have a breakout year this year. And Lee is so valuable, 4 or 5 special teams, and he's just used so well, and he plays so well in the passing game. He's going to play his way in the NFL is what he's going to do.
Yeah.
And then so we're, how many reps are there? Sometimes don't we all think, boy, Lee Morris ought to play more, and he's not getting enough reps. And all of a sudden you bring this super stud in, and Austin Stogner, you're going, well, how are you going to give him reps? Well, all right, if he gets 10 to 12 a game, that's probably pretty good. And he is the one guy that when they go to 2 tight ends and they need a 4th and 1, I think he's going to be in there. He knows how to block, and he's very physical. You could bring a guard in. You could bring somebody else in like that. And to be honest, I'm not sure exactly what they're thinking there, because they have brought, Troy James from the defensive line in before and things like that. But you got a guy in Stogner that you can bring in there. And if you do have him in, Lincoln can always have a play action pass or something to him. And, from what I understand, he is very physical at the point of attack. Yeah. Good blocker.
And apparently he doesn't miss anything. He's like throwing to a net.
That's exactly right. And actually, he was recruited because he's a great receiver.
Right.
They just happened to find out. Shane Beamer, when he was first hired, says, well, I'm going to go look at our commit. He drives down to Plano, and he calls Coach Riley, and he's not bragging on his receiving. He says, this guy's whipping everybody's butt at the point of attack. He's a very physical player. We got us a player here, and Lincoln's going, well, wait till you see him catch the ball. It's like, so they think they have a guy that's a super player there. And I'm pretty sure Grant will try to come out after this year. That's what he wants to do. Lee's a senior, so the position will be his next year. And so it just makes sense they'll play him, and he'll play a bunch.
Yeah.
I can't imagine. I just imagine he'd be on special teams. How about blocking field goals or something at 6'7", or, I would imagine he's going to be something on special teams.
Yeah. No, but but Stogner, he's just an impressive, young man. I mean, I've met him twice. I met him at the spring game 2 years ago, and I'm, up here at Louis. But I mean, all the guys that were there. But Stogner is just impressive to look at. I mean, and he's got a baby face. You're like, this kid is big, bad, and tough, but he looks like my 12-year-old or 12-year-old nephew. Well,
as we all get older, they always look younger, but still the freshmen look like freshmen to me. And but all of them still look pretty young and stuff.
And I've never been, never thought of myself as short. I've thought of myself as average. Rob's what? You're 6'2"?
Yeah.
Caleb 6'2", 6'3", and we took this picture, and there's a dwarf standing in the middle of them, and that dwarf is me. I'm like, holy cow, am I that short?
Well, I mean, you're standing right next to Stogner and Calcaterra. I mean, go on.
I was like, man, I felt like,
in that group you are.
I felt like Adrian, our favorite Houston lady. She's always talking about how short she is. But let's jump on the defensive side of the ball. I know you've given it and stuff, but give it again. What has been your impression of Alex Grinch from day one?
Well, he's a philosopher. He believes in what he is doing. He's got a concept, and he's got a defensive philosophy, much like Lincoln has a concept and an offensive philosophy. That's why they talk about each other and love what each other does so much. When Lincoln dove in to find out more about Alex Grinch, he said, this is pretty cool stuff that he's running. And that's the best compliment he can pay him. It's a defensive concept that they move before the snap. They try to confuse the quarterback and the offensive line. If they can confuse one offensive lineman, the way that they're attacking, and his defensive line does attack. It doesn't catch and hold or doesn't catch and fill. They attack. They have gaps they're supposed to control and run through. The linebackers have gaps they're supposed to control. But you're going to see the defense moving right before the snap. Every once in a while, they'll probably get caught moving. But, he'll try to, it's his calls and things like that. And he calls it a speed defense because he wants guys a little bit lighter than most teams do. And we'll see how that works. I've not really been a big fan of that. Right. I think that when you play physical teams,
Doesn't matter how fast
and at
you
some
are.
point during the season, your Texas is going to be physical.
Right.
You better be able to, but they think they've gotten leaner and stronger. Well, okay, we'll see. But if you're able to penetrate the gap, in other words, you got a body there. That running back's not running over you.
Right.
He's not going to run over Neville Gallimore. So that's the impression I get. They are totally crazy about the strips and getting the turnovers. It is the key thing in Alex's defense is to turn the ball over at least 3 to 4 times a game.
Yeah, that's what I saw. That I was reading your deal today. I was like, 3 times. Is
Yeah.
that even doable? I don't know.
Well,
I hope so.
he says it is. He says to lead the nation in turnovers, you have to turn it over. You have to force 30. And he says, that's a bunch. He goes, but 3 a game's doable. And he said, so you can just do the math. And he goes, but if we get 24 turnovers on the season, that's 9 wins. And he goes, now, I realize here at Oklahoma, 9 wins is not enough. But, the way that they played, they haven't been getting turnovers, and they've been winning 12-13. So if we do get turnovers, how good can we be? And that's the way he looks at it. So they preach it, they talk about it, they walk around campus trying to slap balls out of the hands of offensive players. It's on their mindset. He will send them texts at night saying, hey, don't forget, tomorrow I want you to get 5 strips tomorrow. Let's go. And, hey, always remember that ball has no idea who it belongs to. So we might as well take possession of it just like the offense should take possession of it. So it's really he's a philosopher. He's a quantitative study guy. It's pretty cool talking to him about his craft because it's different. I've never heard of a coach saying, I've done a quantitative study that he had Washington State's math department do on, how many turnovers it takes to, win at least 9 games. And, when you do that and you find out and so much about what the numbers say about your defense, then somehow you got to get your team to match those numbers. And he's analytical when he calls the game. They've had incredible scrimmages because the defense has basically stood up and said, you're not going to do this to us anymore,
Right.
And fought. And that's part of the battle. And so I don't think Lincoln's lying when he says I'm looking forward to seeing what they play like and how they do, and I think they're going to play well on Sunday. And he really says, I look forward to seeing how good the defensive line is going to be because he said that's been our best position group all fall. So think about that. It's not quarterback. It's not receiver. It's not running back. It's defensive line.
Right.
And that's good news because that means Neville Gallimore has made it through camp. I hope he didn't get hurt today. I hope he doesn't get hurt tomorrow. I hope they're not even practicing him because that dude is a top 3 round draft choice And the reason why I don't say he's not a first because they don't know about him nationally.
Right.
He's never been able to stay healthy. But he got his weight down to 298 or whatever. He's quick. He's fast. He's incredibly athletic. And they got Famatu behind him, and they've got Overton, and Overton's down to 301. He hadn't been down to 301 in 3 years. And, so.
It's funny. Our defensive linemen are getting smaller and our receivers are getting bigger.
Yeah. That's kind of the way it is, isn't it? Yeah. So, that's the Grinch defense. I look forward to seeing it in action. I've seen it in so many different ways, but I want to see it against somebody that's trying to game plan against it. Dana Holgerson is a pretty good offensive coach, and he's brought in some guys that, are pretty good offensively, and he's got an electric quarterback. So I'm curious how this defense works against a quarterback like King because he's tough, man.
Yeah. One of the things I wanted to ask you, too, is about Coach Grinch. And when he got to Oklahoma and when they started practicing in the spring, maybe it was just me because I'm kind of the negative Nancy on the defense. We call it drinking the Kool-Aid. Rob's drinking the defense Kool-Aid. I'm still haven't opened the pack yet. I'm still, my heart's been broken too many times, in the last couple of years. But it seemed to me that when he would talk about the personnel, was it he was shocked that Oklahoma didn't have better talent, or that he was shocked that the talent hadn't been developed? It just seemed like he was, to me, it seemed like when he would talk sometimes he was disappointed in what he had and they had to get it fixed.
I think he was disappointed he didn't feel like it was being developed.
Okay.
I think he thinks he has players. Look, 6'3", 243, and 4.52 in the 40. That's your Mike Backer.
Wow.
He should be fantastic. And
Right.
he did have 155 tackles last year.
Right.
But, they're 6-7 yards downfield or they're sideline to sideline, and he's not a good point of attack, and he's wondering why he's not.
Right.
I think that's kind of what it got down to. Neville Gallimore, why aren't you more dominant than you were? Hey, Q, you hold up 4 linemen, but you don't tackle the guy.
Right.
Perkins, why in the middle of the season you didn't make many tackles? Why not? You're really good. Kenneth Mann, why were you so good in a 3-down in the middle 2 years ago? We move you to defensive end where you're one-on-one with the tackle and you don't have as good a year.
Yeah.
All those things, and I think that's what he's talking about. And I think he's also, in his comments, he's very predicated on what he's trying to say. I think he's trying to motivate those guys.
Right.
So he said that on a couple of radio shows, or he said that in the media when people were interviewing him. And in my opinion, it was to let him know. It's kind of like when he says, "Hey, I'm looking for depth. I don't, right now I got 2 guys at safety. I feel like I can play, and I'm looking for some more guys." Robert Barnes, Justin Broyles. You need to show me at practice you can
Right.
play, and if you do, I'll play you. But right now, I don't see it. I need to see it with my own eyes. So he does use the media in that regard, and that's what he's thinking about. And
It just, I'm not a master reader of people, but it just seemed like every time he was on
we've had
TV,
to do that with this coaching staff.
Yeah, but he seems different now than he was in the spring. Honestly, he seems a little more.
Well, if he was still
confident.
doing the same stuff in the spring, now we would think that they don't have it on defense.
Yeah, but
I think he feels like they've come a long way. He does say they've bought in. He does say that they are, they are trying to accomplish what he wants them to, that they're not fighting him. When Mike was the defensive coordinator, and Mike's a good friend of mine, but I was amazed what players would say to him and what he would say to players and how that coaching staff would fight with the players and stuff. But that's the way they did it, and they won a national title, and they've had some, good teams. But as time went on, our politically correct society reacted to that differently. Right. Not James Hale, because I've grown up with it.
Right.
But I'm sitting here going, but I haven't heard one player say anything to a coach about this sucks, this doesn't work, da-da-da-da-da. If they get beat on a play, it's they just listen to the coaching and try to get better.
Yeah.
So everybody has bought in. Everybody's had a clean slate. That's why Isaiah Thomas will play Saturday. With the other staff, he was going to transfer. He just wasn't getting a shot, but he's going to end up playing. Chance Sylvie's got another chance. That's why 2 young safeties are beating out the older guys, because it's a clean slate.
Yeah.
That's why Parker gets another chance at corner, and he's shown him he can play. You're playing Saturday. But it's been that kind of camp where the defense is tired of being the butt of everybody's jokes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, Rob, what was it you said? We were talking last night and a couple of times with.
Manny, how many podcasts you guys have a day? You have 5 a day or something?
This week, because it's kickoff week, we've tried to get as many. We're doing 1 a night, I guess, aren't we?
Yeah.
So we did Blinken on. We had Blinken on Monday. JY, we've got you.
Well, he's an interesting guy.
Oh, Blinken is. which one, JY or Blinken?
Well, both. I mean, I when I joined the Brainiacs, I learned to respect JY. I'm a big offensive line fan.
Yeah.
When I go to practice, I go watch offensive line play, and I'm amazed when they'll say, if you take your right thumb, you can hold this guy. And I'm going, it's a 330-pound guy. And you're going to be able to block him with your thumb placement? But JY does,
right.
explains some of that and leverage. And it's the Brainiacs, the people the Brainiacs that are part of the Football Brainiacs that subscribe to the site. You ought to thank him every day, because you're learning football that you don't get anywhere else on any other site.
That's what we say all the time is,
right.
You're welcome. You just got educated, folks.
That's exactly right. Pay attention to what he's saying.
JY.
And when he actually breaks down, a play, or it's fun. It's just like Teddy Lehman on my station. If I can get Teddy to talk football, Yeah, it's good stuff. And even if you're just the novice football fan, even if he just talks about, hey, I used to put my socks on before I put on anything else. Well, why'd you do that? I don't know. It's just, it made me play better. That's cool stuff,
See,
right?
Rob?
When you can get him to talk about football and the things that go on, and that's what they have with at the Brainiacs with
Yeah.
JY.
I love that, he went from, diagramming the plays, and last year he went to his Home Depot buckets.
That was interesting, wasn't it? See, I dug it.
I did too.
I texted him. I'd say, hey, I grew up, when I first started following football, Bud Wilkinson had little men on a football field. So, find those puppies and let's go to work.
We have an agreement that the next time he's up here, me and Rob are going to be part of the buckets.
Okay. There you go. Now we'll start getting live people out there.
That's what we said. Hey, we can get we'll get a group of guys from here in Norman.
So will his linebackers be pretty girls, or will he have some burly guys?
I'm okay with it.
Yeah, right.
If that's the case.
Because they're the flashy guys, not the big lineman guys.
But no, he does. Outside of football, JY is just a great guy. He's fun to just sit and talk to about pretty much anything. But last night he was a little bit, I think, depressed because he was hitting his last Cuban
cigar
from his trip. He brought back some Cubans, and he was in the garage smoking his last Cuban cigar last night.
Okay.
So he brought it back from the Bahamas. So, no, I lost complete track. Rob, help me out here. We were talking about the defense. I don't know. It was what you were. You'd made a point earlier in the week about the defense.
If I've slept since then, I don't remember.
Yeah, we got to talking about Jay White with something about that anyway. That's where the spotlight is. The spotlight has been on the defense this preseason already. Sunday, all you heard, I think Lee Corso said that the coach he's watching this year is Alex Grinch.
I think everybody assumes that if Alex Grinch really does turn the defense from 111th or 114th, whatever they were, and all of a sudden they're 60th or 50th, they improve that much, then the theory is Lincoln will take care of the offense and OU will be a lot better football team.
Right.
I don't know where that number really sits or lies. I don't know if this offense will be quite as good. I've thrown this out to people. What if this offense maybe is not as big game scoring, but what if it's a 10-play, 5-minute drive and Jalen or one of those guys run it in, or they hit CD on a quick slant, but it eats 5 minutes off the clock? Is that not just as good? You may not end up scoring 60. Maybe you only score 48, but they only score 21.
Right.
But the defense gets to rest for 5 minutes.
Right, and they're not on the field all the time.
Right.
I just see this offense maybe doing that a little bit more, being more of a power team. You don't have Marquise that stretches it, and we'll see if Rambo can do it. We'll see if Rambo can get on top of teams and if Jalen can hit him.
Yeah.
If all those things, if they do like they did in practice, yeah, he can. But in a game's a different thing, and we'll see.
But the other thing that on Grinch that he said, he didn't say it this way, but this is how I took it, and so this is what it meant to me, was being the defensive coordinator at Oklahoma, you don't have to have the best defense in the country. Your defense needs to complement that offense.
Yeah, don't tell Alex that.
Yeah, but you know what I mean. You know what I mean.
Well, I know, but I don't buy that either. Yeah, I'm sorry. OU hasn't had the best defense, and they've fallen short in the playoffs.
Right. Well, I mean, we had the worst defense, but you know what I'm saying. It doesn't have to be number 5. It doesn't have to be Alabama's.
Well, it might. Alabama's defense has been that good. Yeah. They still lost to Clemson.
Yeah. They got thumped by Clemson.
Right. So it just depends on how bad you want to win.
Yeah.
I know what you're trying to say. If they just become the 30th best defense, that OU will be so much better, and maybe it will. Yeah. But I would rather Alex Grinch become the best defense in the country, and I know that's what he's going to try to do. Right. I don't want him to strive to be anything less. So if you do that with this offense, I don't think there's any doubt OU beats everybody in the country.
Yeah. My deal is I really don't care. We talk about the rankings and stuff, but Rob and I have said it for this whole last year now. You don't get 4 stops and hold them under 28 points. You win the game. Lincoln's going to score 35 more than 28 points in a game most of the time.
But see, everybody's conditioned to what Oklahoma was going through the last 2 years.
Yeah, that's true too.
You may be thinking differently about Grinch in week 5 and think now the defense is becoming a weapon that the defense can win a game for them.
Right.
Not just get a big play to help win a game late, but actually win a game for them.
Yeah.
That's what I'm hoping.
Yeah.
I'm hoping he turns it around enough that I have confidence that when Texas takes the field with 3 minutes to go and Oklahoma's just tied it up or taken the lead, that Oklahoma's going to win the game, which I did not have last year after Kyler or Trey's run to tie the game. And I just knew, I said, I hope they score in a second or two. So Kyler, I said, if I'm sitting in the press box thinking Kyler needs 50 seconds.
Yeah.
And instead he had 11.
Yeah.
And that just wasn't going to be enough. But I never had confidence they were going to get off the field. And they almost did. They had the pass interference or whatever it was. Mm-hmm. But I want the feeling that Oklahoma's defense is coming on the field and they're going to stop them.
Yeah.
And that's what I hope that Alex develops.
Right.
If he doesn't, then I think that this year's not what he wants and it's not going the way he wants. I think that he believes that he can get to the defense, that if they're in that situation again, they're winning the game.
Yeah. Now, I can't handle, 45, we've said it before, 45, 42 games or 75, 73 games anymore.
Or a game where Oklahoma hopes to get it by a touchdown, and as long as they score and everybody holds serve, they still win. Yeah, that's the kind of football that look, I don't think Lincoln wants to play it either.
No.
Every time I talk to Lincoln, we talk defense. He wants a great defense. He's hired a guy and he's told him, build me a defense and I'm going to help you. He helps in recruiting. He goes on the road with them to recruit, when he can, but he'll talk to every defensive guy out there and he'll build up the Big 12 conference as a key why you should come to Oklahoma and play. And, so he's trying to help the defense, but.
And you brought up the recruiting aspect real quick. One of the most impressive things I saw with Lincoln was last year when they were announcing the college football playoff and all the bowls.
And he was on a plane recruiting.
He was on a plane recruiting. All the other ones were standing there with their team and everything. I was like, Lincoln's on an airplane flying to, it was California, wasn't it? Whenever he was headed.
Yeah.
That was impressive. The fact that it was, hey, I got work to do. We made the college playoffs great. I'm going to get more players.
That also, he wanted to show everybody, too, in my opinion, that he was confident they were going to be in.
Yeah.
That, none of the team had a meeting. They didn't have a watch party. They didn't do anything. He told everybody, he told them, hey, we're going to be in. Don't worry about it. I'm going to recruiting. You guys go do your stuff.
Yeah.
Get your academics done and, and we're going to hit the plane. And he also knows that you can do an interview from anywhere, so you can Skype him in or whatever.
Which is what he did that whole day, wasn't it? It was phone interviews from in the car driving to the next house. So it was just impressive to see, and it's got to be impressive for a kid, looking at it, look at all these guys. Man, he's still beating the streets coming to see me. Yeah.
I think Lincoln is looked at very favorably in the recruiting realm. He's still very young, even though he's been on the job 3 years. He's still up on what kids are doing today and how they're doing it. So I think it's a positive, and I think they do look at him, and if Lincoln's doing it, it's the right way to do it. You know what I mean? So.
Well, what about special teams? I mean, Austin Seibert, as much as some fans weren't confident in him, which I'm not sure why. Caleb was one of them. Was like every time he got out there in a game-winning situation, but his biggest aspect was he always kicked it out of the park, pretty much, and so
kickoffs and
stuff.
He became a good punter. That's why it's interesting. He's chose to be a kicker, and he's just now actually making some. Austin was a good kicker. It was disappointing when he didn't make the big kick, and because you always thought that he would. Gabe Brekich is probably going to be the kickoff guy and the kicking guy. Sutherland's behind him. One guy's 6'2", the other guy looks like a kicker at 5'8", 5'9". Then Muschamp is going to be the punter. He's been waiting to punt for 2 years. The disappointing thing is he wasn't good enough to beat out Seibert for the punting job. but he's a good punter, and I think they're going to be good there. The kicking has been somewhat inconsistent in training camp. I'm not sure if I think Breakage is going to get the job first, and but I think he's going to have to earn their trust all the time. He's the guy they got the scholarship in. Muschau's another guy they've got the scholarship in, and the other guys are walk-ons. That doesn't mean you don't play them, but that's what they're doing. And I don't know. I'm kind of curious, like everybody else, how good they're going to be, because they haven't been just, oh gosh, he's great at camp. So
we'll see. And I hope we don't have to find out, this year that whether or not we need a great kicker.
Well, last year's team was really good, and they still had to find out.
Yeah.
So I mean, they have to. Yeah, you're going to need your kickers, man.
Yeah.
One of the worst units OU has is the kick coverage team for some reason. And, when they would kick it short, I was scared to death
We all
every
were.
time. And, and
Well, I think that falls back to the tackling, because we weren't tackling the last several years. You'd see three guys, a guy bounce off of three guys, and you're like, how do you not make that tackle? How did three guys miss that tackle?
Yeah.
And I think we're going to, I'm hoping, Rob believes, right, Rob, that we're going to see a completely different.
I do.
I'm hoping. I'm still in that hoping stage, because I just, I can't handle,
Well, they don't get to work on tackling, and it's just like anything in our lives. If you don't get to practice it, you're not quite as good. And they don't get to practice it very much. Last week, Alex told me they were going to work on tackling, and he said, we're going to have to keep our fingers crossed because I need guys getting tackled. I need them to tackle somebody. So, again, who are the running backs that gets tackled? I guess in the scout team, they really got to tackle them or whatever. But they really worked on it because they have not, up to that point in camp, really worked on tackling except in fundamentals and with dummies and things like that, because you just can't get anybody hurt. You saw in the Miami-Florida game, Florida's supposed to be a really good defensive team, and they didn't tackle worth a darn. Miami has all these tremendous athletes on defense, and they didn't tackle very well.
Right.
And so that's going to be a variable that we all have to think about and how it's going to go. And
Rob, maybe that's what we could do, start going down to practice this and say, hey, we'll be your tackling dummies. We'll carry
there you go.
Yeah, I don't think I'm going to do that.
How much? You have a lot of. Is your insurance good?
Just go. Hey, y'all need to tackle somebody. Or what
I would not want to be tackled by Kenneth Murray running downhill. Kenneth, we want to make sure you become a downhill linebacker. Hit James Hale right there in the teeth. No thanks.
Break in too, wouldn't he?
We used to joke about the guys that they stole Bob's car, broke into his house right after he first built the house, and the guys got like community service.
Yeah.
The best community service would have been, hey, go to the university,
right?
And work for
right.
And Bob was like, here, hold these tackling dummies.
Right. It was amazing. Those guys didn't know it was Bob Stoops' house.
I know. It's only the biggest house.
Well, it's got to be either Bob Stoops or President Bourne or somebody, right? Important, right?
Or Harry Potter.
Yeah, somebody that has a little money, right?
I'm not sure, yeah.
So what are some of the things, in closing, that we should look for this season of either improvement or something that's going to surprise us, you think, that's going to jump out and happen?
Well, I think they're going to be a real good defensive team.
Yes.
I think they're going to be a defensive team we like. I think it's going to be a defensive team that has size in the middle, guys that are active, that can make plays, get into the backfield. Jalen Redmond can play, and Jalen's a really good football player, a really good athlete. I think Kenneth Murray will have his best year. I think that White and Jones and Levi, I think they're emerging linebackers, and I think they're going to be good. I've seen fundamentals in the secondary, guys turning their head, running, finding the ball, going for the ball. That's not what the last staff taught. The last staff taught, read the eyes of the wide receiver, run through him, and boy, it just didn't work, right?
Yeah, didn't work at all.
Now they're going for the ball. Knock it down. Get your hands on it. Intercept it. He got on his team the other day because they didn't catch interceptions. They were knocking it down. We would have all been going, they knocked down the ball in the secondary. That's great. He's getting on them going, guys, it's pretty good, but why didn't you catch it?
Yeah.
He goes, that ball's yours. Why don't you catch it? Why didn't, and he's kind of getting on him, and I'm going, wow. So
Have you seen them 10 yards off the ball yet? The corner.
No, it looks like to me they either press or they're 3 or 4 yards off. That's what it looks like.
Good.
So I
because
think
I don't know if you could hear it in the press box, okay, during games, but the entire state of Oklahoma, and in some games when they would be 10 yards off the ball, we would all at the same time.
Some of the worst moments, the Baylor game, the Julian Wilson game,
Why are they 10 yards off the ball?
4 and we're 10 yards off.
Right. And you're always hearing, well, they can get up on them if they want to. So the players didn't have the courage to get up there. So I think now they're told you get up there and you either play it that way or you don't. That's why Jaden Davis is having a good camp. That's what he's done his whole life.
Yeah.
That's Jaden Davis is 5'9", and he will get in your grill. And that's what Buki needed to get back to doing. That's what Buki did in high school. He got into the guy. He covered him off the line of scrimmage. He ran with him, tripped him up. He was always there with him. And then he looked back for the ball and went for the ball. Yeah. And, at safety, everybody's talking about he lacks speed. At safety, what did you see? He was a statue. He had no instincts whatsoever to do out there. So guys would run by him because he would forget to turn and run. Yeah. And he's thinking, Virginia. I'm going to chuck the guy here. No, you can't. He's 20 yards downfield. And so he will be a lot better, but they're bringing in guys, the Watts from Little Elm and guys 6'2", that can build up to a 195-pound guy, and you go get in his grill. Credell, who I don't know how much Credell's going to play this year or what they're exactly going to do with him, but that's a 200-pound, 5'11", 6 foot, 200-pound guy that's really been good in camp. So what do you do with him? But that's what I think. I think that's going to be the big deal. And I think on punt returns, CeeDee Lamb's going to be a lot better player. Yeah.
Do you think that with the defense that as the season progresses, you're going to see maybe more people
playing,
like Credell, maybe, some of the guys that are there.
Well, he says they will. Yeah. And he says he believes in it. Now, again, he's done analytical studies, and so if he really believes that player is better at 45 plays, and if he plays 70, the other 25 are not as good, if he really believes that, then you will see more players play. Right. Plus, it keeps your roster happy. Right. But, as he says, I've got to believe that I can put you in and that we don't have a drop-off. So he thinks those 3 inside guys can do it. He thinks he's got 3 defensive ends with Stokes, Stokes, Jalen Redmond, and who am I leaving out? Perkins. Yeah. And when Kenneth Mann comes back, he's got 4, and he's got Isaiah Thomas. He's got 5 guys he can play there. Linebacker, you have the 2 Wills. You have Kenneth and Levi, so you got your lines. Parker or Davis, you've got corners. And, I'm pretty sure that Robert and Jalen, Justin are going to play better, and so they'll kind of get in that deal. Yeah. So you've got guys you can rotate in there, and if you do that and you keep your roster happy, then, I think he feels – one thing that he's also done, he's told them, you're human, you're going to get beat. Offenses are too good. They've got too much personnel. You're going to get beat sometimes. Forget about it. I need you to play the next play. Yep. And he's told him 100 times, try to make the tackle. Try to run him down. Stop him at the 1. If you stop him at the 1, we have 1 more chance or maybe 2 to keep them out of the end zone and maybe strip the ball from them and get a turnover. Don't give it up until they get it. But when they get it, we come off, we get ready for the next series. Don't let it beat you up. I don't have time. We don't have time. Don't do it. That's all OU's done in the last 2 or 3 years. Yeah. And so mentally, he's tried to change them. They say they're in. He believes they bought in. But out of everybody on that team, Alex Grinch wants to see that team play on Sunday, and he wants to see what they've got. Bill Bedenbaugh wants his offensive line to play because he knows they're really good athletes and they look good in practice, but he needs to see them in the game to see what they've got. And so there's a couple of positions that they really want to see what happens.
So do we win the 5th straight Big 12 and make another playoff
Absolutely.
This year?
It all, a lot of people, Kurt Hermstreak, and a lot of people, picking Texas to win. Mm-hmm. Why? Texas lost 8 guys on defense. So why do you assume, because they've recruited well Oklahoma's recruited well too, that they're going to be a lot better on defense? He says Ellinger is better than Jalen Hurts? I don't think so.
No.
I don't either.
Hurts won a lot more big games, and he's been on a bigger stage than Ellinger's been on.
Right.
Ellinger's big moment is beating Oklahoma so far, right, and beating Georgia.
Yeah.
So he's beginning to make those. But I think Oklahoma's the best team in the conference. They're going to be favored in every game, and they'll probably have to beat Texas twice, but they've already proven they can do that. So
Me and Rob talk. I think Iowa State may.
no, they might.
They might
Iowa
jump on
State has
top
to
of-
beat Texas, and
Yeah.
they could.
Yeah.
I mean, Iowa State's returned 16 starters. They
Yeah,
got their
I mean-
quarterback back, and he's really good.
Pretty good.
And they got their defensive coordinator back. He didn't leave. So, yeah, they're really good.
So-
They've got to come to Norman, though.
Yeah. Well, which doesn't mean anything because they beat us 2 years here.
Yeah,
So.
that's right. Baker and those guys.
But no, I mean, that's all every year, and it's hilarious. We keep hearing Texas is back. They beat Notre Dame a couple of years ago. This is it, and it's just never. I'm sure someday it
Well,
will.
I think Texas is getting back. They're recruiting. Like, they're hammering OU right now in recruiting.
Yeah.
OU's not having what I would call a super recruiting year. I mean, I don't see the 4 or 5 stars they can close with that's going to change it.
Mm-hmm.
Texas is having a typical recruiting year. So they're getting there, but they have to get over Oklahoma, and Lincoln's really confident, and he doesn't fear anybody. And he doesn't fear Texas getting this or that. And he feels like what they do offensively will not be stopped. And,
But
it's just.
don't you think some of the recruiting aspects, though, especially on the defensive side of the ball, a lot of these kids are wanting to see the product first?
I do, but I just don't see OU getting in on 3 5-star defensive linemen all of a sudden to change the recruiting outlook.
Right.
I mean, right now they're 16th, according to the 24/7 Sports Network.
Right.
Texas has moved into the top 10. I think they're 8th or something like that, or 7th. Looking at who OU's in on, I mean, like, they have a few 4 stars coming in this weekend, and there's still one's a receiver, and so it's interesting. But Texas has to do it on the field, and I don't think Herman's a better coach than Lincoln, and I think OU will still. I think they'll.
That's what we think too.
Still win the game.
Any guy who kisses his players on the cheek.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just that's not right. Rob, you got anything else?
Man, it's been a pleasure, James. I really
Yeah, well,
appreciate you
my
coming
pleasure,
over.
guys. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, again, we thank you because we're just fans who put this out here for the fans, and I know we know you're busy. Every time I send you a dildo, it's like, can you come on? I know he's going to be busy. James has always been polite about it. If he can't, he'll say I can do it another time. But we appreciate it. I know our listeners, a lot of them listen to you, but they appreciate it too.
Well, I appreciate that. And everybody try Die Hard Sooner Report. I think you'll like it.
Yep. And that's a podcast, guys, for today. Thanks a lot for listening. We'll see you next time. Boomer up. Boomer Jerry. Boomer James.
Boomer.
Thanks for listening to the Sooner Football Fans Podcast. Sooner Football Fans Podcast is hosted by Rob Nixon, Terry Long, and occasionally Caleb Long. It is produced at the beautiful Podcast Palace in Norman, Oklahoma. Follow us on Twitter at SoonerFBFans and like our Facebook page at Facebook.com/Sooner Football Fans, and visit our website at www.SoonerFootballFans.com to read our blogs and keep up with our tailgating activities. Boomer Sooner, everyone.